Fire Mountain Aria, written and narrated by Jill Penrod. Chapter 22. What does it feel like, Gianni asked, to push your focus so hard it hurts, to do it knowing you might not survive it? That's what the two of you did at your home reef, right? I'm not sure I could do it. Echo sighed and sat down, switching off the screen. Trace's focus screamed at her from his room. Shame and fear and sadness. The sadness was deep, so deep she felt like crying herself. "We're not heroes," she said, thinking of the times she and Trace had played this same conversation of late. "We didn't expect to go in there and end up with reed comas and dead family members. We're not that brave and sacrificial. Not on purpose." "Is it dangerous to send a drone to see what's in the fissure?" Kaya asked. His focus is, what am I feeling? Echo leaned back in the comfortable pit seat, which she'd swiveled to face the deck where Kaya and Gianni sat, and she ran her hand over her forehead. Her head hurt. "It's not dangerous to send a drone." "Well, probably not. We had some trouble with it at Montefollo, of course, but I would be surprised if we had that kind of problem here. We don't plan to send it through anything, just down into a fissure to take some readings. As for what you feel, Trace has always been a hard read. He's complicated, more than anyone I know. Sometimes his emotions shift or even disappear in ways I don't understand. Right now he's mostly ashamed of himself and scared, like sick to his stomach scared. A little angry, although I can't tell you where that's aimed exactly. Disappointed, frustrated, but what you sense the most is shame and fear. Kaya closed her eyes and then shook her head. "Okay, I feel all that, but there's more, something else." Echo raised her eyebrows. She didn't feel anything else, nothing that would stand out from the mess of the rest of his focus, but she suspected Kaya did. These other realmers were uncanny when it came to focal variations, singing skills, all kinds of things. If they'd started to sing as children, they would be making her and Trace look like weak amateurs. "It's resignation," Gianni said, running his hand through his hair. "He doesn't expect this to end well, and he's letting the rest go. I think I've done that. My people make me crazy sometimes, and I know I can't do a thing. Trace thinks he can't do a thing to change his situation either. Would you say that's true? Do eldsingers die to save people a lot?" "No," Echo said. "Most of them have jobs and homes and families and live like anyone else. But Trace isn't a normal eldsinger, and we didn't have normal parents. My parents loved history, and historically, the first eldsinger on Portomare, our ancestor, spent his life helping people. The skills of an eldsinger were brand new here, and he used them to rescue people and solve mysteries and build reefs and all kinds of things. The man was strangely compassionate. Trace has that kind of compassion. He doesn't want it, tries to pretend it isn't there, but it's there, and he's got the power to make a lot of good things happen." "So it's not just resignation," Gianni said. "It's that what he wants, what he thinks he can handle, is at odds with who he is." Echo laughed. The only alternative was to cry. She was now surrounded by the wisest, strongest, most compassionate group of eldsingers in the entire world, and she felt amazingly small. "Yes, that's probably true," she said. Kaya nodded. "What do we do next?" "We prepare the drone. The colony needed us to rescue their people. They simply could not have done it alone, not fast enough. But the plant issue? We won't endanger ourselves for this. Whether we go or they go, someone has to dive and fix it manually. Doesn't matter if that person is a singer or not. However, we can send a drone to get information from the depression in the sea floor and see what we're dealing with, because we have equipment they don't have." Echo talked her way through setting the drone parameters, teaching the other realmers while she worked. Gianni soaked up the information like a sponge. easily adding the tech information around him to his knowledge base. Kaya struggled, not sure she liked the idea of tech at all, and therefore not sure how hard to work to learn it. Echo found both of them fascinating, and she liked them. Their personalities were warm and kind and easy to live with, and she was glad she and Trace weren't alone for this leg of their journey. They'd been alone long enough. Even before the accident, she and Trace had been working alone, since few jobs took more than 2 eldsingers. She loved her brother, but she had missed the camaraderie of the rest of the family. They simply needed more than one another. Then when they'd lost everyone else, that feeling had deepened. Now things had changed, and she hoped this change would last. She didn't know what Kaya and Gianni planned for their future, but Echo found herself hoping they would stay, that she and Trace wouldn't remain alone forever. "Do we need Trace's help to send this?" Gianni asked, eyeing the small vessel that sat in the middle of the drip room floor. "No," Echo said, "but I'd like to get everyone off the ship first. The family in the pressure room needs medical care, and it's now safe to move them. As for the rest of them, I'm not sure I want to take them close to the fissure." "So it's dangerous?" Kaya asked. "I would say no, but a zygotic sun recharge in my home reef shouldn't have been dangerous either. Fissures are simply unknown entities. If you give me stamina, I can get everyone to safety before we move to the fissure." Before she sent the first family off the ship, Trace appeared and sat to the side, watching in silence as she made the radio calls and prepared each family to leave. They all had other family members within the villa colony, so everyone had somewhere to go, although the family that had been in the pressure room would head straight to a medbay in one of the main villa buildings. "You want to help?" she asked when his silence began to bother her. "You have Kaya and G," he said. He shrugged and narrowed his eyes. "I'll watch." She raised her eyebrows, but he didn't give her any more. She suspected he felt some reason to monitor and observe the new pair, but she didn't ask. Kaya closed her eyes when she played, relaxing into a soft chair and looking nearly asleep. Her focus calmed, and Echo smiled at her. Singing had once had the same effect on her mother. Just pushing air through a reed panel would take randoms of stress off her mom. Gianni was more like Trace, playing with his eyes open, watching everything around him while still managing to hit all the right notes. He and Trace together were going to become hard to deal with. She jumped the family's home without incident, although she still felt the current in the water across the entire villa colony. When the medbay confirmed the safe arrival of the injured family, she let the wind go and relaxed back into her seat. "We got the drone ready," she said to Trace, who simply nodded. His silence was making her nervous. "Any reason we should wait to do this?" "Nope," Trace said, "except I don't think we've eaten in a while." "Right," she said. "Sorry. Let's eat and then go look for trouble." Gianni laughed. "Not sure I like that plan, but I'm game to try it." It didn't take long to eat and drive the skipper to a safe spot above the fissure, a narrow, deep crack in the ocean floor. Several varieties of fish swam into and out of it, which made her think it wasn't spewing anything toxic. "It's wide," Trace said when they hovered over the jagged opening, "and the sensors can't see the bottom. That's eerie." Kyle laughed. "You mean the rest of this isn't eerie? Hanging over a dark abyss like this, knowing it might come to life and spew lava all over us?" Trace smiled at her. "The wildlife here is a good thing. I doubt an eruption is imminent." "So what's making the current?" Echo asked. She looked at the sensors, which showed warm currents from the fissure, but the currents weren't especially warm, nor were they especially forceful. "If it's not coming from here, then where?" Gianni asked, apparently understanding the sensor readings more than Echo expected. She looked at Trace, who nodded. "He's right. It's not this fissure. It's higher." That made no sense, but she watched in silence as Trace raised the skipper, driving with the reeds instead of the engine. After 2 randoms, he closed his eyes and drove using his senses alone. It always unnerved her when he did that. "Can he play without seeing?" Kaya asked in concern. Echo laughed. "He can. It makes me nervous too, but he made a song that lets him move the skipper and pay attention to the surroundings all at once, so he can sense obstacles as well as currents all while moving." "Is that something we can learn to do?" Gianni asked. Echo said, not sure how to answer this kindly. "I can't do it. Not well enough to be safe. Kaya, likely you can't do it. Gianni, I would say you can." "Are you and I that much weaker?" Kaya asked. She appeared hurt by the thought. "No, we are weaker, but we're both plenty strong. You and I are a little more hesitant when we play. We can't finesse the reeds in the powerful songs quite the way G and Trace can. I don't mean that as an insult. I suspect you're going to end up with a talent none of the rest of us has, though." She raised her eyes, looking hopeful. "What?" "I'm pretty sure you're going to be able to heal with the reeds. All of us can play the healing songs, but not everyone can make them work. Not well." "So you think I can finesse those songs," Kaya said with a mischievous grin. "Who can train me?" "That's a good question," Trace said, startling them when he opened his eyes and spoke. "But we'll find someone. She's right. You should learn to heal. Echo, I've got something." He stopped the skipper and looked at the sensors, and Echo, sitting in the pit passenger seat, looked over the data. "Oh," she said. "Yeah," Trace said. "It's new to me too. Not sure anyone can do anything about it. The villa colony might have to evacuate." His focus shifted, anger and pain and frustration pounding on her own senses, and she looked at the data again. The floor of the ocean wasn't smooth, especially not out here. The fissure was actually part of a mountain chain, and Trace had taken them further into the chain, between towering cliffs of stone, some covered in wildlife and some stark and bare, and found a smoldering vent, bubbles of gases emerging from a low spot between 2 huge boulders. She looked out the window a long time. "This is causing that? Did you look at the temperatures?" She hadn't, and she raised her eyebrows. She'd never seen temps this high on the ocean floor. "We're talking an eruption soon," she said. "This is 5 cyclers from the villa colony. I can't believe this heat has enough power to make a difference 5 cyclers out. You're sure this is the cause?" He simply looked at her, and she shook her head. Of course he was sure. "It has to do with the mountains around us," he said. "It's funneling the heat. Take a few natural currents, some tidal motion, and add this kind of heat, and it's not a surprise." For a long moment, nobody spoke. Kaya and Gianni both felt curious. They didn't know enough to be afraid, but Echo did. This was looking more like an evacuation, and they might not have much time. "Do you think it's safe to stay here and run scans?" she asked. "I think we have to," Trace said. He was more angry than fearful. "Leaders don't believe us when we say to evacuate. We need proof." She wanted to say something to that, but he was right, and they might be racing time. "Can we help?" Gianni asked. "What needs to happen?" "I'm going to contact the villa colony while Echo scans," Trace said. He looked at the other realm pair for a long time. "G, sit with Echo. She'll tell you what she's doing. Might as well learn something here. Kaya, you'll come with me?" Kaya nodded, and Echo felt Trace's focus gentle. The open, innocent waves that came off Kaya's focus calmed him. Good. It was about time something in this world calmed her brother. Unfortunately, it wasn't much of a calm, because they were in a dangerous situation. Again. She'd never seen temps this high outside of an active lava flow, and she was glad not to be the one to tell the colony leaders their homes were in imminent danger.